All right. So as Deb mentioned, I'm Ryan Hicks, co-host of Modrn Business podcast. Couple of quick comments before we jump into the expert panel. Number one, Deb is a rock star because I think this is an awesome thing. It's really kind of first of its kind. I have the privilege of working with tons of franchisors. I'm also the managing director of a company called Franchise Supplier Network. And the context, like having Matt Haller in here, it's a really awesome thing. So what we're aiming to do with this chat is be thinking about, if you guys have questions, because we're going to keep it on the rails, I'll do my best. But if you have questions, ask them, because this is going to give you a whole different perspective. I'll say that the impact that Fishman PR itself and collectively the folks in this room has on the industry, I think you got a little bit of that from Matt. The impact is tremendous, and we're going to jump into some of that as we kind of connect the dots on some of the stories. I think it'll be really cool. So the second comment I'll make is these folks, and Deb already alluded to it, these folks did fly in, with the exception of Jeff, who had this tremendously long drive, about 25 minutes, and you made it. I'm proud. But
for those that live around me know that that's not a 25-minute ride. Okay, if you know now.
Well, I'm from Texas. I'm not from Chicago. One last comment before we jump in. I get very lucky every time, even in the summer. Whenever I come to Chicago, it's always beautiful outside. So I'm looking forward to having the food trucks outside. We have food trucks, right? So that'll be really neat. So let's jump straight in. We'll start with Steve, and you could give a little cliff note on the number of units and stuff like that. But what I'd love to do for context is, what were you doing prior to PostNet? Okay. And give us kind of the founding story.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Some of you I know. This is the first time we've met in person. I'm from here. I was born and raised in Rogers Park. Went to Philip Rogers Elementary. I went to Sullivan High School. And I think what I'd like to do, and I think what would be helpful, is to come from the perspective of a person that grew up here and then started a franchise business that became a global franchise business. And some of the motivation is so that it'll give you perspective on people like me when you're dealing with them, and they have high expectations for the work you do. But I lived here and went to high school here till I was about 15 years old. And then my parents were divorced. My father ended up moving to Las Vegas. And so I ended up moving with him. Long story, but 2 boys of 4 brothers moved with my dad, 2 stayed with my mom. When you've been through something like that, and I can maybe speaking to a lot of you in the room, that's a tough upbringing with parents that have strong opinions. And so I found myself as that knew I wanted to do more, be more. I wasn't going to let those issues affect me as a human being. And so it had a lot to do with what made me me, which I think is important for you to understand. And found a business opportunity in my early 20s in Vegas in the retail shipping industry. And actually, it was the private mailbox rental business. It wasn't retail shipping at the time. It was just the fact that Las Vegas was booming. And you guys might have heard about that period of time when went from 200,000 to hundreds of thousands of people, and you couldn't get a mailbox in Las Vegas. It was a 6-month or longer wait. So we basically just found a mailbox supplier, opened a retail store with 1,000 mailboxes in it, and we were in business. And it looked to a young person like, wow, this is going to be the easiest thing I never did, right? You get the mail in the box once a day, and this is going to be simple. But then if you're listening to customers, and you always have to be, customers are like, well, can you take this package? And can you help with this transaction? And so we always said yes until we had to figure it out. And just to kind of fast forward, we started doing retail shipping. Actually, PostNet, the brand I founded, was one of the first in the industry to have that kind of an account with United Parcel Service and others. And I didn't understand franchising at the time. and this is an important comment about the community. And so we started developing independent mail and parcel centers. And so literally from about the mid 80s to 5 years to the early 90s, we developed over 400 independent mail and parcel centers, not franchised. And we literally did that by putting ads in the USA Today and the Wall Street Journal and doing a turnkey business opportunity. And what led me to franchising was the Gulf War, and people were like not buying businesses at a time when they started seeing this kind of economic unrest. And so I started thinking, okay, now what am I going to do? I had no franchise fee, I had no royalties, I got paid a consulting fee. And so I went to attend a session on franchising that was put on in Beverly Hills, California by Brett Lowell and Phil Zeidman. And these guys are, Phil was the godfather of American franchising pretty much. And ended up, I'm trying to fast forward, but I want you to get perspective, ended up deciding to franchise, developed our franchise disclosure document. I even used FranCorp in Olympia Fields to review my organizational structure, and they charged me what I think at the time was a stupid amount of money to tell me what I already knew, which is you've developed 400 independent businesses. You're pretty good. You're way ahead of the average bear. And so started franchising actually in July of '93, and from that time forward developed 660 locations. We at one point were in almost 20 countries, but that doesn't always work in your favor, depending on where you are and what the economics and the political environment is, and building a global franchise company. IFA was a huge resource to me. Going there, the people at IFA saw value in what I was doing and in me personally and invited me into the leadership, joining committees, getting involved in programs, and at one point, my competitors were complaining about the fact that we had come into franchising wrongfully because remember, I told you we were doing it independently before we franchised. So the IFA actually kicked us out because they thought we were trying to undermine the franchise companies that were doing it, like mailboxes, et cetera, and others, and nothing could be further from the truth. So we had our lawyers write to them and explain, no, these guys were really starting a franchise company. And I was having a conversation with someone there named Scott Lair, and he's like, well, you should get involved in leadership. And I looked at him, I said, someday I'm just going to run this association one way or another. And of course, in 2008, I did chair it. So it's kind of funny.
I think quickly, and then we'll move on, because this is the great thing. We could share stories for hours. But the importance of having franchise suppliers. So you had a unique situation. You had 400 units operating, right? And just speak briefly to the importance of having suppliers that understand, and the terminology of suppliers, like we are service providers, Fishman PR for these folks, but just explain the importance of having folks that get it and that support the system and that help you along the way. It's tremendously important.
Yeah, it's critical. There's no other way. I wanted to get real personal for you because I want you to understand when you're on the other side of the phone with somebody that from a young age had a dream to build something. And then they decided to create a brand and put signs on buildings all over the world. And then they see that dream come to fruition by working their butts off and sacrificing. And then get frustrated when they're not seeing the results that they're looking for. It's sometimes helpful to understand what kind of a human being you're, some people are just not nice, and that can be the case. So these relationships are critical to people that are not only building dreams, but that have invested their life savings and put everything on the line from the franchisee to the franchisor to be successful. So your roles are absolutely critical in helping them achieve their dreams.
Yep. So I just now realized this as we're going to go over to Shane. Shane also has some roots in Chicago. So give us a little bit of your backstory. What were you doing before Massage Heights? And give us the quick founding story.
So first, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you. I think I first met Brad and Sherry and Deb, I think we said about 15 years ago, is when we initially started working together. And I'm just so grateful to be asked to be here and share the story and to actually meet all of you and see your faces and be here at the office where you guys really make things happen and impact lives tremendously. So thank you. So my story is, look, I'm going to try to do this really quick. 18 years old, graduated from high school, didn't know what the heck I was going to do. Dad said, Shane, you got to figure it out. Go enroll in college or get a job. I was like, okay, I'll do a little bit of both. Enrolled in college, quickly realized I could make him a lot more money working. And I was selling gym memberships. And that is where I got my initial health and wellness background and membership-based sales. I think I was 19 years old, making about $100,000 a year. And I was like, who needs to go to college? And that was really it. I will say at times I do regret that. It's like one of those things I still want to get done. But at the same time, I might teach a college course on business and all the things that you should and shouldn't do.
Because you know how to get the gross.
Yeah, I know how to get the gross. So that was always the thing. What's the gross? But my story really was early on when I was in that business, I injured my back. And I had a chiropractor friend right next door to me, and he would say, come over and just let me fix you. I quickly realized that what he was doing was actually hurting me more than it was helping me. And I'd end up on the floor for a couple of weeks, legs up, could barely move, And then someone introduced me to massage therapy. And instead of being on the floor for 2 weeks in pain, I was up in 2 days. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. But massage therapy then was not very mainstream. And so you would go to some weird places unless you could afford a really nice spa. And I couldn't. But I recognized the value of it and what therapeutically it could do and help with, mind, body, all the way around. And I fell in love with massage therapy, and I was like, where can I get my next one all the time? So my birthday, 2003, I was in Sedona, Arizona. And I had a massage experience when I woke up at a very nice hotel, and I got taken late, cut short, and it was super fluffy. And I said, for $200, man, I should have gotten exactly what I wanted. Literally on New Year's Eve, a few days later, I was concepting this business idea. And 4 months later, on April 4th, 2004, opened up the first location without the intention of franchising at all. So my backstory was, at that time, medical sales, as well as health wellness. That was my early on. But really kind of what happened was right away, starting in April 4th, 2004, people were coming from all over San Antonio and areas around for this really great service that we were offering at a high value. And they wanted to know if I was going to build another one, and where is it going to be, and how can I get involved? And I didn't know anything about franchising at the time. But I knew that we had something really special because there were so many people that just wanted to be part of it. And so, we can do this, really not knowing anything about it. But that was really sort of the entry into franchising, was this interest. And I think that when you have a really cool concept that offers something incredible to the consumers, it's a natural. You don't have to push it. People are going to want to know how they can get involved, and you sort of naturally start expanding that way. But that's really where it all started. Our mission was to just provide massage therapy in a really safe environment that was very convenient, so that more people could enjoy the benefits on a regular basis. It's what I needed. It's what I wanted. And that's exactly what we did. Focused on massage therapy, creating that value, providing jobs to therapists who really had no place to go that was offering something regular. And it just made a lot of sense from a business perspective, from a consumer perspective, and business opportunity as well as for our therapists who needed a place.
Got it. I have some follow-up questions, but we'll do that in the next round. So, Jeff, you have a little bit different path, but an amazing path. So share very briefly your backstory and...
Very briefly?
Yeah.
No.
You take as much time as
Thank you. So I'm from Chicago, or I'm from the south suburbs. When you say Olympia Fields, I know where Olympia Fields is. I grew up in the south suburbs, Oak Forest. So usually if I say south side, people that are not in the Chicagoland area, they look and go like, really? So south side Irish. I grew up there, and I went to the University of Illinois. Any Illini? ILL. All right. There we go. That plays well on the radio, by the way, when you ask the audience questions. So I was a finance and marketing major there, and I had an internship at a large bank downtown Chicago after my freshman year. And I would go downtown in a suit and tie every morning, and I'm not a morning person, okay? I would go downtown, suit and tie with all these businessmen, businesswomen, reading the newspapers and going like, all right. And I had a corner office. I had a desk, and I was paid, this is a long time ago, but I was being paid about $1,500 a month. So not nearly the $100,000 Shane was making as a 19-year-old, but $1,500, and I was 19 years old, and this was a while ago. Although I look as young as Zach, I'm not. So I would go to work every day on the train, and I remember about 2 or 3 weeks into my summer internship, and I came home, and I'm like, Mom, I hate this. She's like, you hate what? And I'm like, I hate my job. Like, I hate work. She's like, well, Jeff, that's why they call it a job, right? And I'm like, yeah. But Mom, I can't do this. Like, I was a business major at school, and I'm like, I'm screwed. Like, I don't like this. She's like, well, what don't you like about it? And I was like, well, it's not as though I felt like I should have the keys to the vault, but I wasn't really doing much. And now, there was a time you may have heard about where this thing called the internet didn't exist. Okay? Scary time. And killing time back prior to the internet was actually really hard. Because when you're sitting at a desk and you don't have your phone or the internet, I mean, you're sitting around going like, what do I do? And like, I want to do something at the bank, and they're like, oh, create this spreadsheet, right? And I was like, I don't know. So I go through this internship, and I go to my sophomore year of college. For those at Illinois, I was at the Six Pack, I was at Scott Hall. And I received a flyer in my dorm room. And so it said, earn $10,000 next summer. And I was like, well, this is a scam, but I'm gonna at this point, I had to write out what was called a business reply card. So you had to handwrite it in and put it back in the mail. And hopefully somebody would eventually call your dorm room phone. And they did. And eventually they were like, look, so you can earn $10,000 by running this business next year. And I'm like, I don't know how to run a business. They're like, no problem. And I'm like, well, I don't have any money. And they're like, no problem. And I'm like, all right, let's talk about this. So I start meeting these people, right? And I had an interview at the University Inn. I don't know if it's still there or not. And then I had another interview up in the Chicago western suburbs of Chicago. And I walk into a vacant apartment building. I'm sitting on the countertop in the kitchen, and the other guy's sitting on the countertop. And I'm looking around, and he's telling me that this is a Canadian-based company that franchises painting businesses. Now again, we're pre-internet, so there is no research. There's no Google, there's no reviews. And I'm looking around, I'm like, you don't even have a mattress. Like, how dumb am I? And I go home, and I'd received what's called an FDD that Steve referred to.
No, a UFOC.
UFOC, Uniform Franchise Offering Circular at the time, which is now a franchise disclosure document, which is that 200-page legal document. So I'm 19 years old, I got this thing. And I'm sitting there, and I got the franchise agreement. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, I think I'm gonna run a painting business next year. And they were like, Mom's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, look at all this legal paperwork they've given me. And my dad reads through it, and he goes, well, you're not happy at the bank, and you say you want to run your own business, and what's the worst that happens? This is a scam. You lose a lot of money, and you have to drop out of school. Better to do it now than, if you had a family and you're an adult. And I'm like, good advice, Dad. And my mom starts crying, and she hits my dad, and she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I think I am. And so I signed a franchise agreement in the winter of 1989 as a franchisee for a company called College Pro Painters. Anyone hear of College Pro Painters? Turned out to be a legitimate franchise based up in Canada. They had just come out to the US. I was one of the first few people that signed a franchise agreement and ran a painting business in the summer of 1990. Ran a $48,000 painting business. Made all sorts of errors, only made $8,000 in the summer, worked my tail off. I loved it. Came back again, ran a franchise again, joined the company full-time in 1992. I spent 15 years full-time with that company, moving my way up. General manager, VP, was the president. Moved over to our sister company in 2008 called CertaPro Painters. Anyone heard of CertaPro? CertaPro, spent 2 years there. All of those companies are part of a company called First Service Brands, which also owns California Closets, Paul Davis Insurance Restoration, Floor Coverings International, Pillar Post Home Inspection. I was became a small partner in all of those companies. They owned Handyman Connection. I moved over there in 2010 to take over as president and CEO of Handyman Connection. And then I bought the company out from First Service Brands at the end of 2013. So when you buy the company, you're able to name yourself CEO, you get job security, and then you are the D-list celebrity with franchise royalty up here. So if like Shelly's not available in Chicago, it's like who else is on down the list? And it's like Jeff's local, call him. So I've spent my whole career in franchising. There's the brief story.
If it doesn't work out, you'd be a comedian.
Yes. I still have time to find my next career.
Or a storyteller.
Storyteller.
Yeah.
So my mind goes to a couple places because you each come from kind of a slightly different angle. It's super unique that Steve built what he built, 400 location business. And then Shane started hers, and there was organic interest that came, and they expanded by virtue of the next logical step. And your story is different. You were a franchisee, and then you bought a franchisor. I would like for each of you to speak to, and let's start with Shane on this one. Why franchise versus own the locations yourself? And then we'll do a variation on each of you.
So ultimately, to be able to provide what I myself was seeking to more people quicker, the ability to grow faster, to expand. We knew that, again, we had something really special very, very quickly, and expanded to our second location within 9 months after opening the very first location. And again, a lot of it was organic. It was a lot of our members and people that we knew personally that wanted to help us expand. And it made the most sense because we'd be able to touch more lives and help people live their lives better, faster. And our goal is to touch 32 million lives, and we're getting very close to that. So that's the franchise model, and and not only from a consumer perspective, but what I love about franchising and why the franchise business model and what I've grown so passionate about is helping other people get into business for themselves and really supporting them in their journey to whatever their ultimate goal is. Brad, I think, said earlier, it's not necessarily about the money. People get into business for themselves for a bigger purpose. They have a bigger why. They want a certain lifestyle. They want to take care of their kids, send them to a great college, or send them to college at all, something that they didn't have themselves. And I love being a part of that and seeing people really take our model and be able to live whatever their dream is for their families. So that's why franchising for me.
Yeah, in franchising, there's a saying, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that. Jeff, speak to you transitioning out of this corner office and walking into the vacant apartment complex and all that. And you launched this franchise and it was successful. Talk about what it would have been like to do that alone, without the franchisor, without the assistance, without the help.
I could be brief on this one. I couldn't. I didn't know what I was doing. And to me, why I got involved on the franchisor side is I can't imagine, I've thought about this before, I can't imagine what my life would be if I didn't find franchising. I would have been or could have been that person stuck going to the corporate job on a day-to-day basis, downtown Chicago, going, I hate this. And I don't know if you've ever spoken or any of you know anybody who doesn't like their job. If I didn't have franchising, I might have been that person who just moped around complaining about life. So for me, I got involved on the franchisor side because I went, this freed me. Like this gave me life. This gave me purpose. This gave me enjoyment to be able to go out there. And I'm like, nobody knows about this opportunity. And I'm like, I want to get involved to be able to give back and give people the same opportunity I had.
Yeah. Steve, share your perspective on that. And yours is different. Like I mentioned, why franchising? Because I could extrapolate several different reasons, and you talked about the story of grappling with it, and even the triumphant moment of you saying, "I'm gonna lead this organization one day," and there was some turmoil. But what with the early on? But why franchising versus not?
Yeah, I think the same issues. There's an opportunity in franchising to impact many. So that in itself can be one of the most powerful reasons to do this in purpose. I think that's really well said. So for me, having, and to clarify, those initial 400 business opportunities didn't become the next 600 franchisees.
Got it. Okay.
Because they bought a different model, and it was we grew that franchise company outside of that model. And so again, for me, I had a vision of, first it was building a national brand. And then when international became an opportunity, building a global brand. So making a difference, touching lives, creating purpose, bringing the ability for people to own their own business, employ people, create income and wealth, to me was the strongest motivation. I was telling Brad on the way here, I shouldn't admit this publicly and on tape, but I never did this with a dollar vision in mind. I never said I'm going to do this and I'm going to make $1 million, which would have been a lot of money when I started, or $10 million or whatever the number was. It was all with the dream of building a business that would touch people's lives, enhance communities, and make a difference.
So just for some numbers' sake, and I'll tie this in to where we're going, there are 3,800 franchise organizations in the world. In the United States, or I think in the United States, there's 1,400 that are a part of the IFA. And the unit number mark, the location number mark, on average for a franchisor to be profitable is about 80 to 100 units, depending on the type of brand. And so, I think that's just interesting as it relates to perspective, because you mentioned earlier, you hear the founding stories and they have their dream and they're trying to help folks achieve theirs, and they're paying out suppliers, money's going in, money's coming out. It's not that, hey, this company has 70 locations open or even 200 locations open and they're rich. That's not the case. It is blood, sweat, and tears, and it's a lot of hard work. And so all of you mentioned a variation of, it's not about the money, but it's really about the lifestyle. It's about helping create the American dream. So I'd like each of you to share maybe a before and after story, but talk about what it feels like to see. In Shane's example, I think of, because I know some of the stories, Debbie Weatherford, or some of these people that come in to your system, their lives changing. So just speak to that. Maybe give us a story. We'll start back with you.
There's so many. I mean, it's hard to pick any one, but when I think about folks that came into our business 20, 25 years earlier and put their kids through college, and so, I mean, if you want names, I think Kathy and Terry Stokes in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, some of you may know them early on the PostNet account because they were sort of our go-to franchisee, because they worked hard, they did everything right, and they've become sort of our dearest friends, which is what's really interesting about it. But I mean, these folks built an incredibly successful business. Over years, they impacted their community in ways that even I don't think they ever expected. And to be a part of that, to be able to say that I helped put them in business and they trusted me and had that confidence, again, it's a big part of the why.
And on the flip side of that, it's a massive responsibility because this individual or this group, this family took a second mortgage out on their home. It is responsibility. So Shane, share whatever you would like on the topic, but share one of your quick stories.
I'm going to share one I think that you don't know, and I'm going to be careful about how I state it just because of just privacy, I think. I mean, there are so many stories of people. Now, our investment's about a $500,000 investment, right? So it takes more to get in. But I have a franchisee who, single mom, really just uncertain about her pathway in life, a number of challenges, and her family ultimately decided to invest in her, and we invested really collectively based on the family and her, meaning we accepted. And today, this particular franchisee is our top performing franchisee with multiple units. I think she's at 5 or 6 now, that all range from $1.5 million to $3 million in annual revenue. And she is just living an incredible life with her daughter, who is now older, and they're horseback riding and going to. It's just like it's cool to see where she came in and just sort of this uncertainty about kind of where her life was going, and eventually just really embracing kind of what we were showing her and telling her, and to see her numbers go from here to like everybody wants to follow her. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And so she wasn't this leader before, and she didn't have that. She didn't think she was, right? She didn't think she was a leader. She didn't know where she was going. And she's leading everybody now. Everybody wants to be her. Everybody's following her. And I think that's incredible, because that is confidence, right? That she can do incredible things and is now, making an impact on other people's lives. So,
Jeff, what say you?
Let's say me on that topic, or
See.
life. What do you want to talk about? Queen, what do you want? I think that all of us get stories. And the cool thing about what we've had the opportunity to do is see people get an opportunity and make a difference. And when I say make a difference, whether it's make a difference in their community, make a difference in their financial future, if we have time, as far as a separate story, as far as franchising and the power of franchising, I was in a room with Brad when COVID was hitting. We were in Utah, and then the world was shutting down, and to see the collective thought pattern go through as far as going, how do we help franchisees, was really interesting. When COVID hit, a lot of people lost their jobs. And so we would hear stories on, when people go, why are you looking in the franchising world? It was because, well, I just got laid off. And I have kids, or I have a family, or I've been laid off before. I mean, we seem to get recessions every, 6 to 10 years, and who knows what's coming. The ability for our franchisees to create a sense of certainty for themselves is tremendous. So I think we all have this opportunity to watch people go out there and grow at various levels. And probably our 2 top franchisees, again, I used to work with a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds at College Pro. And so I believe in the power of youth and the excitement and energy, and we're a lot less of an investment in the home services space. So I've been able to watch a couple of 25-year-olds run multi-million-dollar businesses and have families and support those families, and to watch them come from almost nothing except sweat equity has been amazing. And so you love those stories, but you hear the stories whenever somebody's looking in franchising to go, why are you looking? And it's amazing. Everybody has a story, and at all time, not all the time, a lot of the times comes down to, I want to take matters in my own hands. I don't want to be at the disposal of my company choosing I'm no longer a valued employee.
Let's tie this closer to home to the room, and I'll ask the question, how has PR positively impacted your business? Storytelling, content marketing, it's obviously a very important thing, especially, we're not in the pre-internet era, so that's a benefit and a drawback. It's a noisy world out there. It's hard to cut through, it's hard to get the message out, but I'd like each of you to share the impact that PR has had on helping you grow your brand and thus being able to impact your franchisees, their communities, etc. Start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so diverse of a question and an answer, because I think about just the local level PR. When you guys are able to get a story about a franchisee that has impact all the way through the organization, but starts with them, it puts a spotlight on them, and they're the people that are working the hardest, taking care of customers, and I think it's incredible. For the company itself, getting that exposure builds credibility. I know you guys are aware of that. And so it's an opportunity for those of us that have given, years of our lives in a career like this to be recognized not only for the work, but for the brand, but for what we stand for. There is monetary benefit, but there's also the benefit of, just friends, family, loved ones, business associates, the world going, I saw that piece on your company, and it was amazing, and it's a game changer. And then finally, Fishman had me on Undercover Boss in 2008. 2008? No, 11.
You were in 13, I think, because I was 13.
Yeah, maybe it was 12.
I was right after you.
Yeah, but anyway, I did an episode of Undercover Boss, and I did, in fact, learn more about my business than I thought I knew. So that was a huge takeaway. And you couldn't monetize what we gained in global visibility for the business and the brand and the pride of ownership and everything that was done. So I, for one, having been through that experience, even grew as a human being. And I don't even know you can't put a price on what that did for the company and the brand and for me personally and for the franchisees and their families. And the downline effect was just incredible.
I need to watch that episode. I've seen Shane's episode. You were on
I watched
Undercover Boss.
Steve's episode in preparation for my episode. I did. They sent me here, you need to watch these episodes, and so I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your answer on that impact of PR? I think it's obvious, but share an example.
I'll
if you
just
have
go
one
off of the Undercover Boss thing. Something that I didn't expect out of that is the thousands of job applicants that our franchisees got in the very first episode that aired. Which, wow, I thought, okay, well, we'll get consumer exposure, more people walking in the door. We'll get maybe some franchise sales out of it, which we did. But the bigger impact was actually on team members and people applying for jobs across the country. So that was really cool. Obviously, the experience and just, you don't go in there not thinking about what might come up because you have to, right? But it was really cool to be in that environment. But I think the local level stories are just so important. I love when a franchisee gets attention. So often, we as the franchisors, as the founders, as the CEOs, get a lot of the attention. But really, it's the franchisees and their team members that are making it happen for those consumers, the people that we're touching. And so I love when there's an opportunity to highlight a franchisee or one of their team members that are making an impact in the local community, because that's relatable. It's relatable, and those are the stories I love to see the most.
Jeff, anything else to add on this topic?
2 of the 3 of us have been on TV.
But you're the funny one.
Franchise royalty. Has anyone seen Shane's episode? It was on Saturday afternoon, right? Actually, I was flipping around stations, and I have a 12-year-old son, and I went, hey, I'm going to be on with this woman who starts off saying, I'm a Chicago housewife, and I go, please watch it, because Shane, that is not what Chicago women look like or dress like.
So I didn't share, but I did live here for a while.
Yeah. Look like an Iowa housewife.
Yeah. That was a big mistake.
Hopefully nobody's from Iowa. All right. Here's what who's run a business before? Okay. Here's what running a business looks like year one. Somebody takes your head, puts it in the toilet, flushes it. Pulls your head up, pushes it back down, flushes it again, pulls it up, says, are you having fun yet? We need you to write another check. That's year one of running a business. Okay? I don't care what kind of business it is, right? You don't know what you're doing, you're disorganized, you're like, I'm not gonna listen to them, I got a better way. It's crazy. It's not, I wouldn't call it fun. Typically, we're not getting like married couples that are buying businesses. It's usually one or the other. So, and oftentimes these people have kids. So if you can imagine this person getting their head flushed down the toilet, okay? And the spouse often looks at them and is like, what are you doing? Like, this was gonna be a good thing, right? And those first few months of running a business can be pretty lonely. So when you are able to get a PR article, a publication, something on the news, what that means to the person is they are able to come home and say, look, believe in me. This'll work. Have a spouse look at you and say, I'm proud of you. It adds legitimacy. Because when you're the one that's running that business and you're the one that's writing all the checks and you're working 15, 16 hours a day, right? And you're not seeing the family and you're not showing up and all you're doing is you're writing checks and you're like, it's gonna work, I promise, they told me. It's hard. It's really hard. And it's really hard on the families. So when you're able to tell that story, I don't know if you understand the impact it means to that family. Because the pride just swells up in the family members, in the neighbors that go, oh, I get it. So it's everything. It's everything. It really lends that the emotional support that these families need year one. Not that it's not beneficial in year 10, but it's hard.
You gave me the chills for a second. I think I saw some tears right over here. So I think that's a perfect place to end. We can talk more, but Deb, why don't you come up?
I'm going to just transition it over to the Q&A. But one question that I always get is, why have I been at this company for 23 years? It's a long time to stay in one job. It's very rare. And sorry, I was born with that gene. Took it from my dad. That you can't say something nice without crying. Don't make fun of me. Another thing for Jeff to make fun of me for. But this is why. These people are why. What you heard today is why. These relationships and everything that they've done as entrepreneurs and the opportunities that they've created for people, and then the impact that all of you and what you're doing is in turn making, and the positive impact that it makes on those people's lives. That's why. And Sherry and Brad. But it's It's huge, and I hope you got a good sense of that today. Thank you so much. I do want to open it up now.
So all three of you oversee impressively large operations with numerous local owners in different states and even countries. How do you maintain a consistent consumer experience and culture amidst this large system?
It's a good question.
I can take it first. Really, the beauty in franchising is in system standards and processes. And so it has a lot to do with well-planned, well-documented, well-executed standards. And, obviously having great people and great training too, but people are first. But the point being that's why franchising is successful, because you have the ability to create a model, to take feedback on the execution of that model, so you're constantly improving, and then dialing in all the time the execution, the standards, the process. That is really the power of franchising in itself.
Yeah.
And why it's a better way to go than almost any other business model.
And like Steve said, so I invested into an earlier stage emerging brand, and it's fun to watch. Like the Dallas market will bring these ideas, and Colorado Springs will bring those ideas. And so then you just refine the model. And when you say the power of franchising, it's like this flywheel and then each PR story, rising tides rise all ships, right? And so even if you have a neighboring franchise, that's not your competition, that's more brand awareness.
I would just add, of course, what Steve said, but just really being clear on values and who you bring into your system. I think a lot of brands in the beginning really don't know, they're not very clear on their values. They're not really clear on where they're going, and they'll bring franchisees in that don't necessarily align because they don't even know what that is, right? So I think just values alignment and recruiting franchisees based on that alignment, and talking about the hard things right from the get-go. How are we going to handle things when they go south? Because this can get hard, and we're going to, you're not going to like something, and so all of that right up front, and then your internal team as well, of course. Look, I stepped away from operating the company 18 months ago, and I'm on our board, but we have a CEO, and I wanted someone before her, but ultimately, when it was time, she's the right person, culturally the right person. She's amazing, and I couldn't imagine giving the reins to someone else, from a cultural values alignment perspective. And I know that she's going to take care of my franchisees, but that has to happen kind of right from the get-go.
Ditto.
Yeah,
What she
nothing
said.
funny.
And what Steve said. No, I got
So again, I just want to thank, if we could give a huge round of applause to our
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Did this help? Did this give you guys a much better understanding? What you do is pretty cool, isn't it? When you think about it. Yeah.
So all of us here have risked, I know I did, and I didn't have anything, but I risked everything that I did have, right? Cash in on this, cash in the bank, kids to college funds, all the things. And our franchisees are doing the same thing. So what you're doing for them and for us is helping us realize our dreams. Bottom line is that, right? Helping us, the people that have taken a risk and are bearing the burden in so many ways.
Yeah.
You're helping us see that to fruition. So you're doing amazing things.
And while some of us are very unique, we're really
We can
we're
spin that.
we're really not unique to the franchise industry. Really, you could have a different 3 people sitting here, or a different 6 people sitting here that could have been selected from anywhere, and you would hear similar stories about the starts, the struggles, the pride, the ups and downs. Yeah, the flushing of the toilet. I never thought about it that way, but I would agree with it. The only thing I would have added is that for me, it felt like, and then in year 2, it was my wife's head getting flushed in the toilet. And then in year 3, it was my kids' heads getting flushed in the toilet. Because what rolls downhill as you're trying to build something. But that is the reality, guys, I always say it, franchising is a destination, is a journey, not a destination. And so a lot of these folks you're working with, constant highs and lows. You guys experience it. You get some big wins, some big hits, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I cannot.
What's next?
Yeah, and so we're all living that same journey, and like I said, it's not unique to us. So you guys are in a position to make impact, and I think for you at this time in your career, you couldn't be in a better possible place with people that not only care about you, but they care about this industry and franchising like no one I've ever seen before. That much I can tell you.